very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Raisha Saigal. On the show tonight, we continue to track the conflict between Israel and Iran. While both the sides continue to attack each other, US President Donald Trump has declared that Iran must never possess a nuclear bomb, and questions are now being raised if US will enter the war not just to defend Israel but to eliminate Iran's nuclear ambitions once and for all. We will also tell you about Iran's new killer weapon, the Shahid 107, also known as the suicide drone. Finally, on the show, US President Donald Trump at the G7 summit said that Russia and China should be a part of the organization, further saying that he would rather have the G7 become the G8 or even possibly the G9. All that and a lot more lined up on Gravitas tonight. Let's get you started.
A real end, not a ceasefire, an end.
For 5 days, Israel and Iran have unleashed deadly weaponry. The bombings and waves of missiles are only escalating with every passing day. Now, watch these images, released by the Israeli military, showing the latest strikes on Iran. IDF says it destroyed missile launching sites in Iran. Tehran is also under heavy attack. Israeli leadership and the US President Donald Trump, they both have urged civilians to leave Tehran. This fresh round of attacks comes after Iranian armed forces claim to have attacked Israel's intelligence Mossad headquarters. Iran also launched ballistic missiles towards Israel earlier today. Israel claimed to have killed Ali Shadmani, the new chief of military of Iran. Shadmani was appointed 4 days ago after Israel eliminated the top military leadership of Iran. Now, there are signs that things between Israel and Iran could explode. US President Donald Trump has declared that Iran must never possess a nuclear bomb, doubling down on Washington's red line. Now, this document that you see on your screen, it was released a short while ago by the White House. It lists out President Trump's past statements that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. So at this point of time, what is the Trump administration hinting at? What is coming next? Trump told reporters on Air Force One that Iran is close to having a nuclear weapon.
Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having it.
Israeli jets have struck Iran's most sensitive nuclear sites, Natanz, Isfahan and Fordo, damaging above-ground infrastructure. Yet, satellite imagery reveals a sobering truth for Israel. While some above-ground components at Natanz were destroyed, the vast, deeply buried enrichment halls remain largely intact. Iran's nuclear program, though hit, is far from crippled. Israel's Operation Rising Lion was meant to be a knockout blow. Instead, it has exposed the limits of Israeli air power. Iran's most critical facilities, buried deep beneath mountains, are beyond the reach of conventional munitions. Only the heaviest, we're talking about the American bunker busters delivered by B-52 bombers, can hope to destroy them. These bunker busters weighing up to 30,000 pounds and can penetrate up to 200 feet of reinforced concrete.
Right now, Israel itself lacks the conventional capabilities to take out such a facility, so it would need to talk to the U.S. about the bunker buster. Now, the bunker buster is not a specific bomb; it's a type of bomb. What we're talking about is a specific American weapon, which is 30,000-pound precision-guided bomb, and it can only be carried by the B-2 stealth bomber right now, because that's the only plane that's configured to carry such a weapon.
U.S. is now sending the supercarrier USS Nimitz and the rest of its strike group to West Asia amid a new build-up of forces in the region. Apart from that, the USS Carl Vinson and its strike group is already stationed there. Officially, Pentagon calls this defensive posturing. There are already 40,000 American troops deployed in West Asia, and now Trump is hinting at something decisive. After abruptly departing from G7, the US president said he wants to end the war.
What specifically is better than a ceasefire? What are you looking for here? And then a real end, not a ceasefire. And then so something that would be permanent. Yeah, or giving up entirely. This is okay too. Are you closer? Is that possible? Next 24 White House. Certainly possible. Complete give up. That's possible.
The rhetoric is rising in Israel too. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared that killing Khamenei would end the conflict. His foreign minister then went even further, warning that Iran's supreme leader could meet the same fate as Saddam Hussein.
I warn the Iranian dictator against continuing to commit war crimes and launch missiles toward Israeli civilians. He should remember what happened to the dictator in the neighboring country to Iran, who took the same path against Israel.
Well, the message is unmistakable. Israel is willing to escalate beyond military sites to the heart of Iran's leadership. And now going back to the US, things are moving rapidly there as well. Trump has requested that the National Security Council should be prepared in the Situation Room. Is that a signal that Washington might enter the war? The Situation Room is an intelligence management complex on the ground floor of the West Wing of the White House. In Washington, concern is building. Bipartisan lawmakers, including Bernie Sanders, are pushing legislation to block Trump from launching a war with Iran without congressional approval. The world is transfixed at this point of time by the possibility that the US may soon enter the war, not just to defend Israel, but to eliminate Iran's nuclear ambitions once and for all. Yet, the risks are immense. Escalation could ignite a regional inferno, drawing in global powers and destabilizing the world economy. As the fifth night falls, the outcome remains uncertain, but the danger has never been greater. And breaking news coming in from Doha. Qatar has issued a strong rebuke of Israel's recent strike on Iranian nuclear sites, calling the move reckless and dangerous. Speaking at a press conference in Qatar's capital, Doha, Foreign Ministry spokesperson warned that Israel's actions would have very dire repercussions for the region. He further warned that if these escalations don't cease, there would be negative repercussions and called for all parties to resolve the dispute through diplomatic means. Qatar, which has long played a mediating role, says the escalation as an uncalculated measure that risked undermining fragile progress in regional diplomacy.
What we have to emphasize when we are talking about the waters of the Gulf, it's the main source of water for all of us here in the region. It's also the maritime way for, as I said, 30% of the world's fuel and fertilizer, 25% of the world's natural gas. So we cannot remain ambiguous to this. We have to condemn very clearly, and the international community has to make it very clear that any targeting of nuclear facilities, any targeting of fuel or energy facilities in this region would have ramifications that are unknown.
Another set of breaking news coming at this point of time. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz warns that Iran's nuclear weapons program could face total destruction if Tehran fails to return to the negotiating table, signaling a hardening European stance as the Israel-Iran conflict escalates. The German Chancellor said that, and I'm quoting him here, Israel doing the dirty work for us, speaking at the G7 summit in Canada. Merz told broadcaster ZDF that while Israel lacks the military capabilities to eliminate Iran's nuclear infrastructure, he says the Americans have them. He emphasized that while Iran's leadership has been severely weakened by recent Israeli strikes, diplomatic channels remain open. Day 5 of the exchange reveals grinding depletion. On one hand, Iran's missile onslaught pierces Israel's Iron Dome and drains Israeli interceptors. While Israel's surgical strikes on Iran, it erases Iran's launch systems. This tit-for-tat is not just destructive, it's a war of attrition, testing both arsenals' limits. Our next report telling you more.
Missiles streak across the sky, lighting up the fifth night of relentless warfare. Israel's defenses are pushed to the brink as Iran unleashes wave after wave. First come the sirens. Then the projectiles. War machine grinds on. Israel says its airstrikes have destroyed a third of Iran's long-range missile launchers and killed top commanders.
We have eliminated Iran's security leadership, including 3 chiefs of staff, the commander of their air force, 2 heads of intelligence services, 2 of which were killed yesterday, the army and the Revolutionary Guards. We have struck their chief of operations. We are eliminating them, one after the other.
Iran is now adapting to new tactics, firing salvos of missiles mixed with cheap decoys, forcing Israel to guess which are real and which are not. Each time the Iron Dome lights up the night, Israel's arsenal of interceptors shrinks, and the price tag climbs higher. The numbers are staggering. Israel is spending nearly $1 billion every day on its war efforts. Every Iron Dome interceptor costs up to $150,000, while Arrow and David Sling missiles run into millions per shot. Iran's decoys and low-cost rockets, some as cheap as $5,000, are designed to overwhelm these defenses, draining Israel's stockpiles and emptying its coffers. Yet the attrition is mutual. Israeli jets have pounded Iranian launch sites, reducing Tehran's missile firepower. But Israeli armed forces are still able to fire multiple salvos every day. Each attack still brings terror and destruction.
All our houses were destroyed. All our cars were destroyed. We went through terror here. No one thought it would happen. And it happened to us too.
Iran now supplements its shrinking missile arsenal with drones and cruise missiles, seeking to stretch Israel's defenses even thinner. This is a battle of who can take more punishment, both militarily and economically. Israel is eroding Iran's offensive capabilities, but Iran is effectively depleting Israel's defensive arsenal and driving up its war costs exponentially. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Iran has unveiled a new suicide drone under its Shahid series. As per reports in the Iranian media, the IRGC Aerospace Force introduced the Shahid 107 on Monday. It's a weapon designed for long-range, one-way attack missions, further highlighting the country's advancing drone warfare capabilities. According to the announcement, the drone is equipped with a piston engine with an operational range of over 1,500 kilometers. According to Iran's Tasnim news agency, which is closely associated with the IRGC, recent images circulating online appear to show a drone similar to the Shahid 107 approaching Israel's Arrow 3 air defense system. The report says these visuals suggest that the new Iranian drone may have the ability to breach Israel's multi-layered missile defenses, a development that would significantly elevate the drone's strategic value. The drone reportedly serves as a loitering munition built to identify and destroy enemy targets by self-detonation. According to a Ukrainian media outlet, the Shahid 107 can be launched in multiple ways, either from a catapult system or from a runway. Iran has, however, not confirmed the final launch method or released any detailed technical specifications regarding the drone. But there have been various reports last year itself about the Shahid 107 drone, because last October, an unmanned Hezbollah aerial vehicle targeted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's home, with reports claiming Hezbollah had then used the Iran-developed Shahid 107 drone for the attack. Then, in January 2024, Sky News reported that several units of the Shahid 107 drone may have already been transferred to Russia as a part of a military agreement between Tehran and Moscow. The report says that the drone was approximately 2.5 meters long with a wingspan of around 3 meters, further adding that it has a V-shaped tail and can be launched from a vehicle, while the flight range of 1,500 kilometers is the same as this one disclosed by the IRGC. The Shahid 107 marks the latest addition to Iran's growing fleet of suicide drones, which includes the widely used Shahid 136, a model Russia has deployed extensively against Ukraine. Well, the illusion of absolute safety in Israeli shelters that has now been brutally shattered. For decades, these reinforced heavens were the bedrock of civilian security, a place to weather storm or rocket attacks. But as the Iran-Israel war enters its 5th day, a new terrifying reality has emerged. Even these supposed sanctuaries are not safe. Our next report telling you more.
This is the moment a missile strikes near Tel Aviv. The effects are devastating. This is Petah Tikva, east of Tel Aviv, where a direct hit by an Iranian ballistic missile on a residential block has left a searing scar. This wasn't a near miss. The missile, reportedly a bunker-busting type, penetrated the structure, exploding directly within the building's reinforced bunker. 4 people were killed in that strike.
My building boom from Iran, very scary. I have 4 children, 4 boys. And we're very scary, but everyone is okay.
After we received the alerts at night, we entered the safe room. We waited. There was a siren. Within a minute and a half after the siren, we felt supersonic booms. Up there, very strong booms. Half a minute later, we felt the explosion inside the apartment, inside the building.
This incident has sent shockwaves across Israel. The Home Front Command was forced to issue a chilling admission. These reinforced concrete shelters are not designed to withstand direct hits, conceding that the Iranian missile breached the structure. The Israeli president and the security minister rushed to the spot.
What I've seen upstairs in the destroyed apartment is evil, pure evil in and of itself. And it's evil aimed at innocent civilians all over Israel.
Israel has sharpened its attack over Iran. It is continuing its bombing campaign and asking civilians to leave Tehran. Despite the onslaught, Iranian armed forces continue to hit back hard. Iran unleashed a new powerful weapon, the Hajj Qasem, a new bunker-busting ballistic missile named after the late Quds Force commander. Traveling at hypersonic speeds, its 500-kilogram warhead penetrated deep into hardened shelters. Faced with a weapon that renders bunkers useless, Israeli leaders are confronting a brutal reality. This weapon breaks more than walls. It shatters confidence. The psychological impact is seismic. The nation's sense of security is unraveling. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Let's now tell you what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. At least 50 Palestinians have been killed after Israeli soldiers opened fire on crowds trying to reach food distribution centers. From smartphones, socks, linen, Trump organization has stepped into the telecom world with the launch of its own mobile service. We will tell you how the Trump brand continues to diversify. As the world turned its glare towards West Asia, Russia unleashed one of its most deadly attacks on its neighbor. Kyiv's darkest night in months, 10 dead, over 100 injured, and entire apartment blocks reduced to rubble. Watch out this ground report on how the new attack is shattering the fragile calm and leaving the Ukrainian capital gasping for breath.
This is the moment a drone struck a building in Kyiv. The night sky over Kyiv erupted in fire and terror. A deadly Russian onslaught unleashed a barrage of missiles and drones. For over 9 harrowing hours, the city endured a relentless barrage as hundreds of drones and dozens of missiles screamed through the night, their ominous whirring abruptly punctuated by thunderous explosions.
It was probably the most hellish night in my memory for our neighborhood. It is very difficult to imagine what the local people whose homes were damaged are going through right now.
This is the aftermath. Entire floors collapsed, flattened into dust. Rescue crews hauling victims from smoking wreckage. Among them, a man clasping his cat as he walks across the rubble.
It was very loud and scary. We got out in time and the rescue team arrived. Our door was jammed. The rescue team came and opened the door for us.
I was asleep. There was a loud bang. The window was smashed and glass rained down on me.
This attack, one of the deadliest in recent memory, comes as Russia escalates its campaign to break Ukraine's spirit, launching hundreds of drones and missiles in a calculated attempt to overwhelm air defenses before unleashing the full force of its arsenal. On the front lines of Sumy and Dnipro, heavy fighting continues. Ukrainian forces claim to have stopped the latest Russian onslaught, but Moscow claims its troops are still advancing. Ukrainian President Zelensky calls the latest Russian attacks as pure evil. He would be heading to Canada to attend the G7 meeting, but he won't be able to meet US President Donald Trump, who has left the meet. Zelensky is urging G7 leaders to provide more backing for the war against Russia. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Russian Urals crude is the workhorse of Moscow's war chest, and it's back in the headlines now after it surged nearly 15% following the flashpoint in West Asia. But as the crude gets dearer, the question now rising is, who is buying Russia's sanctioned oil at this point of time? Russia and Iran are among the world's largest producers of crude oil, and they are under strict sanctions from the West. Russian oil is checked through price caps and shipping limits, while Iranian oil is embargoed. Before the Iran-Israel escalation, the Urals traded around $57 a barrel. Now it trades around $65 a barrel. Israel's strike on Iranian energy infrastructure and the threat of disruption to the Strait of Hormuz have injected fresh volatility in the global crude oil market. China and India are widely considered to be the two biggest buyers of Russian crude, often purchasing it at steep discount. Most of it moves under the radar, labeled as crude from Oman or Malaysia, complicating the crude oil trade. In Iran's case, China remains one of its biggest buyers. The fact that Russian and Iranian oil still flow into global markets has kept prices in check, but the Strait of Hormuz is key. Any disruption on this route is likely to take crude oil prices shooting above $130 per barrel. And according to experts, for now, they say that crude oil markets have priced in risk premiums for the current conflict. But they could enter a new phase if they continue to escalate. And breaking news coming in at this point of time from Iran. As Israel and Iran continue their aerial bombardment, Iranian media has reported widespread internet disruption. It is not immediately clear what caused the disruption. And this, of course, comes after Iranian media issued reports of Iran's central bank facing a cyber attack, after a group of hackers linked to Israel claimed to have broken into the institution and interrupted its operations. And that's the latest coming in on day 5 of the Israel-Iran conflict, which started by attacking the nuclear plants, which Israel started, and targeting the Iranian leaders. And now it seems like Israel is targeting various other targets in Iran. From the Iranian bank to the latest coming is that the Iranian media has reported widespread internet disruption. At the G7 summit in Canada, U.S. President Donald Trump said that Russia and maybe even China should be part of the organization. Trump said that he would rather have the G7 become the G8 or possibly even the G9, adding that it was a very big mistake to remove Russia in 2014 after it annexed Crimea.
The G7 used to be the G8. Barack Obama and a person named Trudeau didn't want to have Russia in, and I would say that that was a mistake, because I think you wouldn't have a war right now if you had Russia in.
The Kremlin said that they agreed with Trump that it was a big mistake to exclude Russia from G8, adding that the G7 had lost significance for Russia. Trump was scheduled to meet his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky and also hold talks about the Russia-Ukraine war with his allies on day 2 of the G7 summit. Trump was also scheduled to meet the Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum amid Washington's nationwide immigration crackdown. However, Trump abruptly departed from the G7 summit, citing rising tensions between Israel and Iran as his reason, making it clear that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and ruled out any possibility of a ceasefire. French President Emmanuel Macron had earlier claimed that Trump was mulling the prospect of a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. In a post on social media, then, Trump accused Macron of spreading misinformation, calling him publicity-seeking, and saying that the reason for his departure was much bigger than a ceasefire. Trump's attendance at the G7 has sparked friction in the past as well. At the 2018 summit in Canada, a photo of then German Chancellor Angela Merkel with an arms-crossed Trump captured a tense mood between the leaders and later became symbolic of the summit's strained mood. The then German Chancellor described the outcome of the summit as sobering and a little depressing. The same year, Trump clashed with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau after Trudeau criticized U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods. Trump called Trudeau dishonest and weak. And then at the 2019 G7 in France, Trump had then also pressed for Russia's return to the group, but faced pushback from major Western leaders, with only the outgoing Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte backing him. And we have some breaking news coming in for you as Israel and Iran continue to trade fire for the 5th consecutive day. WION Susan Tehrani spoke to the Russian ambassador to UN, Vasily Alexeyevich Nebenzia, on Russia's offer to mediate Israel-Iran war when asked about whether Russia has made arrangements to facilitate the evacuation of any Iranian government personnel or their families. The Russian envoy has said that he can neither confirm nor deny.
My question is, can you confirm or deny whether Russian officials have offered or made arrangements to facilitate the evacuation of any Iranian government official should tensions rise, and welcome them to Russia? And also, would Russia be open to such?
I can neither confirm or deny it. This is the first time I hear that.
The Russian envoy further goes on to say that Moscow has offered to mediate the war between Iran and Israel, but there does not seem to be an appetite for ceasefire right now.
The offer was indeed made, both by President Putin and by President Erdogan, but I don't see any appetite for mediation on the part of Israel, at least at this time, neither in 24 or in 48 hours. But these hostilities, this thing should be stopped because it has absolutely unpredictable consequences. Given that we are talking about nuclear sites that are under threat, and given that the ballistic exchange continues with the casualties, heavy casualties, and now on both sides.
And our correspondent Susan Tehrani is joining us live from the UN headquarters in New York. Susan, talk to us more about that conversation you had with the Russian ambassador, where he's clearly said that Russia has offered to mediate, but Israel and EU, they both have objected and they're reluctant for Russia's mediation in the Israel-Iran conflict.
Yeah, he was just verifying those reports that we have heard, and of course coming from U.S. President Donald Trump, that he had that discussion a few days ago with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin, and that Putin was willing to mediate some sort of negotiated ceasefire to the war between Israel and Iran. Now, days have passed since that offer and that sort of mediation offer, so to say, and it appears that when asked here at the United Nations, the Russian ambassador said that, well, we made the offer, but it doesn't seem until now that there is an appetite. And then he added sort of afterwards, notably from Israel. And the question that I asked, of course, was in the backdrop of those reports that as tensions flare up and the future of the Iranian government is in question at this point, there were reports from unknown Russian officials, anonymous officials, saying that Iranian high-ranking officials have already reached out to Russia to sort of provide some kind of safe corridor for them to exit Iran if things get worse and find a safe haven for them and their families. Of course, you heard the Russian ambassador here at the UN saying he can neither confirm or deny those reports at this time.
Right, Susan, the Russian ambassador, like you mentioned on your question, said that there's no appetite for a ceasefire at this point of time. Something which also the King of Jordan said that the war will go on for some time. Talk to us about where the situation is headed to right now, because Trump, in just a short while from now, will reach Washington, D.C. after he left the G7 summit, where he clearly said that he wants to meet the National Security Council in the Situation Room, and he said that something bigger is coming, but not a ceasefire.
Yes, President Trump also made those comments shortly after he put out a social media post saying that Iran should have negotiated, should have taken the deal and come to the negotiating table. And, you know, this was should have in past tense. It was the first time that we saw a post from the president saying that. Nonetheless, people close to him, as close as Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, after he made those comments and came back to Washington, said that the doors of negotiation conversation are still open with Iran should Iran decide to come to the negotiating table. Of course, we have not heard from the Iranian sides. We only have unconfirmed reports that Iran is reaching out to Arab intermediaries, hoping to reach the ears of Israel and the United States. But nonetheless, later on the plane, as he was heading back to Washington, we heard President Trump being very clear-eyed, saying that he doesn't have an appetite for talks either at this point. Now, whether or not he received new intelligence, there were more reports, but something had to sort of evolved for him to, first of all, leave the G7 so early. And second of all, as you mentioned, as we're speaking right now, he's meeting with his National Security Council team. Again, everything is happening so fast. Let me just bring our viewers up to date that we are seeing many American aircraft carriers heading to the Middle East. This does not mean necessarily that the United States wants to get involved. It does mean, however, that the president and CENTCOM need to have options in the regions should the situation get out of hand or the United States decides in some form to take any action. Yeah.
Right, Susan, thanks for joining us on the show. That was the correspondent Susan Tehrani joining us live from the UN headquarters in New York. In other news, first they were starved and now they are shot. Either ways, death seems to be pretty much inescapable for these unfortunate Palestinians. Over 50 have been killed from the Israeli shootings as per the Gaza Health Ministry. Imagine this. Days after being deprived of food to eat and water to drink, dozens of Palestinians lining up near 8 trucks in the southern strip of Gaza for a morsel of food. Meeting their end, within minutes, they are gunned down, violated and massacred, while hundreds of them are left severely wounded. And what is now being dubbed as the deadliest attack. All right, we are now moving on to other news. From smartphones, socks, linen snowballs to even pressure cookers, the United States, it seems, cannot get enough of US President Donald Trump. The latest such move, the Trump Organization has stepped into the telecom world with the launch of its own mobile service. The Trump Mobile. Well, Trump's eldest sons, Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump, introduced the venture at the Trump Tower in New York. The monthly plan comes at $47.45, and this is no ordinary figure. It's rather symbolic, highlighting Donald Trump's status as both the 45th and now the 47th President of the United States of America. As Trump branded gold smartphone priced at $499, it was also revealed during the launch. The company says the phone will be manufactured in the US, though no manufacturing details have been provided. Speaking at the launch, Donald Trump Jr. emphasized that Trump Mobile aims to serve Americans who feel they're overlooked by the existing providers.
Today we're here to introduce Trump Mobile. We've partnered with some of the greatest people in the industry to make sure that real Americans can get true value from their mobile carriers. A big part of what we've done right now in the world has been focused on technology for people who have been underserved, whether that's been in crypto or anything else. But one of the places where we felt there was lackluster performance was in the mobile industry.
But it's not just the Trump family alone that is capitalizing on the US president. A number of homeware companies are rolling out Trump-themed merchandise, ranging from linens and socks to kitchen appliances and snow gloves. A company dealing with pressure cookers and air fryers has announced a new 45 to 47 collection featuring goods labeled with Trump's presidential numbers and the Make America Great Again slogan. Apart from this, Trump-themed fine porcelain dinner sets, gold-plated cutlery, and collector's items like snow gloves showing a Trump figurine in front of a miniature White House may be hitting the U.S. market soon. Trump has long profited from licensing his name and image from sneakers and watches to now mobile phones and dinnerware. The Trump brand continues to diversify and monetize. All right, as investigations into the Air India Flight 171 crash continue, there has been a spate of safety-related incidents and, of course, cancellations involving the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. On Monday, June 16th, a British Airways flight bound for Chennai from London's Heathrow Airport was forced to return when pilots encountered issues operating the aircraft's flaps. Another Air India Dreamliner bound for New Delhi from Hong Kong returned to the city on account of unspecified technical issues. Perhaps most unnervingly, the Air India flight to London from Ahmedabad, scheduled to take off earlier today, was cancelled. Airport officials cited operational issues for the cancellation. In online aviation forums, there are whispers about what's being called the Boeing curse. Is the Boeing 787 dream run over? The Dreamliner, ever since its maiden commercial flight in 2011, the 787 had been the star in Boeing's lineup. The wide-body twin-engine jet debuted at a time when the 9/11 attacks cast a long shadow on the airline industry. The 787 Dreamliner was the first commercial aircraft with an airframe made of composite material that was not just lighter but more durable. Boeing claimed the aircraft was 20% more efficient to run than the outgoing 767. There did not appear to be any trade-offs either. The plane was spacious and comfortable for passengers. Under the hood, the 787 featured an expansive suite of electrical systems that replaced the high-maintenance hydraulic systems found on most aircraft of that time. But it hasn't gone very well for Boeing over the past few years. Accidents and scandals involving the 737 MAX have decimated the aviation manufacturer's reputation. In May this year, Boeing managed to escape prosecution in a fraud case related to the two fatal 737 MAX crashes which killed 346 people. The deal with the U.S. Department of Justice requires Boeing to pay more than $1.1 billion as a fine and compensation to families, as well as $455 million to strengthen the company's compliance, safety and quality programs. The recent failure of Boeing's Starliner's capsule that was deemed unfit to bring back astronauts on the ISS has brought further scrutiny. And now the latest to join the list, what happened in June 2025. The tragic crash of a 787 Dreamliner just few minutes into its flight from Ahmedabad to Gatwick has rather raised serious questions about the airworthiness of Boeing aircraft. The difference this time is just that 737 MAX, the Dreamliner, has had a largely unblemished safety record. In 2013, fires broke out aboard two Dreamliners owned by Japanese airlines due to overheating of the plane's lithium-ion batteries. Dreamliner fleets around the world were grounded until Boeing rather addressed the issue and got a clearance from the U.S. aviation regulator. In 2019, John Barnett, a former quality manager at Boeing, filed a whistleblower complaint against the company, alleging that the Dreamliner's flight control systems were at risk due to shoddy wiring of its electrical systems. Following this, the FAA inspected several 787s and found that the reported issues existed. It then ordered Boeing to fix the problems. Last year in January, another whistleblower, Sam Solopor, reported that sections of the fuselage of the Dreamliners were improperly connected. Now the question being, were all these warnings signs that warranted greater action? Was it one of these lingering problems that might have led to AI-171's crash? In other news, health officials in Japan are investigating the first suspected case of severe fever with thrombocytopenia syndrome, also known as SFTS, which led to a vet's death in the country. Now, this is a newly recognized tick-borne disease that has been reported in other parts of East Asia and is transmitted from an animal to a human. The vet, who has not been named, developed symptoms of the virus after treating a cat in a clinic Officials from the Japan Vet Medical Association confirmed that the vet was hospitalized but died a few days later. Now let's tell you how diseases jump from animals to human. First, direct touch. Touching infected animals, their blood, saliva or skin is the first cause. Second, consumption of contaminated animal goods. Eating undercooked or raw meat can increase the risk of contracting zoonotic diseases. Airborne transmission is one way that the disease can jump from animals to humans. And lastly, environmental contamination. If you contact water or soil contaminated by animal waste, then you can catch the virus from animals. And breaking news coming at this point of time, US President Donald Trump says US has complete control of the skies over Iran. And this comes as questions grow over whether the United States will join Israel's strikes against Iran. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said, and I quote him here, Iran had good sky trackers and other defensive equipment and plenty of it, but it does not compare to American-made, conceived and manufactured stuff. Nobody does it better than the good old USA. He hailed the use of US-made weaponry, although without explicitly mentioning Israel. Trump's remark comes hours after he said that he wants to end the Israel-Iran war and not go for a ceasefire. And well, that's the news coming in. US President Donald Trump has reached Washington, D.C. after he exited the G7 summit. And the latest coming in is that he's clearly said that the United States of America has a complete control and good control of the skies over Iran. Shifting focus now, have you ever heard of a race of the royals, by the royals and for the royals? Well, that's what I'm talking about here. This is what's going to happen in the United Kingdom. And if you haven't, then mark your calendar for the King and the Queen of England. King Charles, Queen Camilla have arrived at the Royal Ascot shortly, hoping to experience a taste of victory in the 200th anniversary of the first royal procession. The royal procession, or the royal race initiated by George IV so that he could wave to the public, starts from the Windsor Castle right up to the race course. And like any other royal event, it's all things regal at the Ascot, with bespoke winning trophies on display set to be awarded to the most deserving. The royal family, as it were, shares a collective penchant for sports and sporting events, a trait which has been inherited across generations, including the late Queen Elizabeth II, who took a fascination towards riding horses. The event is also said to be organized partly in her memory as well as to reward the best in the business. And this year is even more special as it touches the 200th year of the event, symbolic of the royal legacy, one to behold and admire in the world of racing. Well, that's all that we could pack for you in today's edition of Gravitas. We're slipping into a very short break, but we're leaving you with Gravitas Worldview.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Ayatollah Khamenei tweeted almost every day, "Death to Israel."
I want to see no nuclear weapon in Iran.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Welcome back to WION The World is One, and thank you for staying with us. Time now for Pulse. I'm Eric Njoka. Let's begin this broadcast with the headlines. As Iran and Israel escalate aerial bombardment on each other, US President Donald Trump makes big declaration, claims total control of the skies over